Good afternoon. How are you? Okay. So, in today's current affairs class, we will see these topics. First one is India UAE relations. So, next is multi-dimensional poverty index. The third topic is criminal defamation and disqualification following the criminal defamation. The fourth topic is DPDP bill, which is Digital Personal Data Protection Bill. Digital Personal Data Protection Bill. And the fourth topic which we are going to discuss is coral reefs. Okay, coral reefs. So these are the topics that we are going to discuss. So we will take up the first one, India UAE relations. Okay. So I'll tell you what is the current affair. First one. India UAE relations. Okay. So recently our Prime Minister Modi visited UAE, United Arab Emirates. Its capital is Abu Dhabi. Okay. And there are two memoranda of understanding. Okay. That means two MOUs were signed. Signed between what? Signed between the Central Bank of India, Reserve Bank of India, and the Central Bank of UAE. Okay. So there are two memorandum of understanding, so two MOUs signed between Reserve Bank of India and Central Bank of UAE. Bank of UAE. Okay. So what are those two MOUs? The first one is to promote the use of local currencies. To promote the use of local currencies. What is the meaning of local currencies here? What is the Indian currency? Rupee. What is the currency of UAE? It is dirham. It is dirham. So to promote the use of local currencies, that is rupees and dirham, okay, for trade between, by the way, I will write between as B by N, trade between India and UAE. India and UAE. So this is the first MOU. See, the second MOU I will tell, but I will proceed with this one. Okay, this is the first MOU. Fine. See, before this, okay, there are only certain between Indian rupee and US dollars, between Indian rupee and Japanese yen, between Indian rupee and euro. Only between these currencies, okay, conversion is possible. Not between Indian rupee and dirhams. Is this point clear? Yes. That means what is the meaning of this? Suppose if importers in India imported something from the UAE, okay, we have to pay in terms of dollars, not in terms of dirhams. That means, so before this, only Indian rupee and US dollar, Indian rupee and Japanese yen, Indian rupee and euros, conversion is possible, etc. That means definitely not between Indian rupee and dirhams. Is this point clear? So conversion is possible. That means if we import something from the Abu Dhabi, we need to pay in terms of dollars. Similarly, if they import, people in the United Arab Emirates, if they import something from the India, they need to pay in terms of dollars. So what is the mechanism here? Suppose I am staying in India and I am importing some crude oil from the Abu Dhabi. I need to pay dollars. That means first I need to convert my rupees into dollars and then I have to pay the dollars for the exporters locating in the UAE. Is this point clear? Yes. Now, so finally, because of this memorandum of understanding, what we are trying to establish here is, remember this word is very important, local currency settlement system. Local currency settlement system. This is what we are going to establish. Okay. So, how this local currency settlement system functions is, listen, how this functions, what is the mechanism of this local currency settlement system. Suppose let us take, so here it is India and here it is UAE, and there are exporters present in the India and there are importers present in the India. Similarly, there are exporters in UAE and there are importers in UAE. So, when importers imported something from the UAE, they can pay in what? Rupees. Is this point clear, students? Yes. Similarly, when exporters in India exported something to the UAE, they will get rupees. Is this point clear? Yes. So, similarly, here importers can pay in terms of dirhams and here exporters will get, okay, dirhams only. So, what we have done here, we have eliminated the intermediacy of the US dollars here. Okay. Now, let us delve deep into this. So, how this is going to function, Rasara? So, this local currency settlement system I will write as LCSS. Okay. Completed? Yes. Yes. We will go to the next slide. Completed? Please be. Now, so I am explaining the local currency settlement system here. We are going into the deep of that concept. See, this side is India and this side is UAE. Okay. Now, in India, there will be a correspondent bank. Okay, there will be a correspondent bank. See, what is this correspondent bank? See here, I will explain here. Okay. So, what is this correspondent bank? So, this one, suppose a correspondent bank in India acts as a agent of Abu Dhabi banks, of UAE banks. So, what is a correspondent bank here? It acts as an agent of a foreign bank. It acts as an agent of foreign bank. Why? Because foreign banks, okay, don't want to establish their branch in domestic country. They don't want to establish their banks in domestic country. That means the banks present in the UAE, they don't want to establish their branches, okay, in the India. Okay. Therefore, in India, there will be one bank and it is called correspondent bank. It will act as an agent of the UAE banks. Is this point clear? For example, I can take SBI. I can take SBI. Okay. It is a correspondent of the UAE banks. Is this point clear? Yes. Now, if we take importers in India, when they import something from the Abu Dhabi, they will pay in terms of what? Yes, rupees. So all these rupees will go into the special account present in the correspondent bank. Is this point clear? Yes. And the exporters, when they export something to the Abu Dhabi, they are going to get money in terms of what? Rupees. So this correspondent bank, upon seeing this special account, okay, whatever the balance is there, that is going to be paid for exporters. Is this point clear? Yes. Similarly, there will be a correspondent bank here. Correspondent bank here. Okay. So the importers who import goods from the India present in the UAE, they are going to pay in terms of what? Dirhams. Okay. And there will be a special account here also. Yes. So from the balance of the special account, the exporters of the Abu Dhabi is going to pay in terms of dirhams. That's it. Very, very simple. Is this point clear? Yes. Okay. So what are the things that we need to understand here? Okay. We are establishing what here? Local currency settlement system. Okay. So under local currency settlement system, there will be a correspondent bank present in the domestic country, and this correspondent bank acts as a correspondent of the foreign banks, because foreign banks don't want to establish their branch in India. Is this point clear? Yes. Okay. So this is the diagram here for to understand. Now, by establishing this local currency settlement system, okay, so two things we have done. One, I have already told you, that is, okay, we have eliminated the use of US dollars, and we have also developed the foreign exchange market between Indian rupee, okay, and United Arab Emirates dirham. So we have developed the foreign exchange market between these two currencies. Earlier, okay, the conversion between these two currencies is not possible, is not allowed, but now it is allowed. As the number of days are passing, as the number of goods and services that is being imported and exported, okay, there will be so much demand generated for the rupee in UAE and dirhams in the India. So we are developing the foreign exchange market between the Indian rupee and the UAE dirhams. Okay, please write down this. Now tell me what are the advantages of this? Just guess. I have already explained so much on this currency exchange rate system. We have eliminated the US dollars here, isn't it? Yes. Sir, Raskon cheptan.
Fluctuation of currency can be controlled.
Cheptan Raskon. So here also in this bank, yes. So Indian rupee, United Arab Emirates dirham. So here also there will be a special account. developed the foreign exchange market between, okay, rupee and dirham. Eliminated the transaction in US dollars, eliminated the transaction in US dollars. You can write like this. Right. ఎస్ రానా అక్కడికి.
ఇప్పుడు సరే ఇండియన్స్ యూఏఈ దగ్గర నుండి ఇండియన్స్ యూఏఈ వాళ్ళకి పంపించారు సార్, ఏదో
పంపించారు ఎక్స్పోర్టర్.
వీళ్ళకి డబ్బులు పే చేయాలి. ఎలా పే చేస్తారు సార్?
అదే చెప్తున్నాను చూడు. సో ఫస్ట్ యూఏఈ వాళ్ళు దిర్హమ్స్ కరెస్పాండెంట్ బ్యాంక్లో వేస్తారనమాట. సో అల్టిమేట్గా రెండు బ్యాంక్స్ దే విల్ డిస్కస్ అండ్ దెన్ బ్యాలెన్స్ విల్ బి పే టు ద ఎక్స్పోర్టర్స్.
అంటే ఈ బ్యాంక్ అనేది దిర్హమ్స్ ఇండియన్ రూపీలో కన్వర్ట్ చేస్తారు.
ఇప్పుడు మనకి ఇక్కడ కరెస్పాండెంట్ బ్యాంక్ యూఏఈ బ్యాంక్స్ ఉన్నాయా, ఇక్కడ ఎస్బీఐ అని చెప్పానా. ఎస్బీఐ జస్ట్ లైక్ బ్రాంచ్ ఆఫ్ ది యూఏఈ బ్యాంక్స్, అంటే ఒకటే బ్యాంక్ లాగా, అందుకే దానికి కరెస్పాండెంట్ బ్యాంక్ అని అన్నాం.
అంటే సార్ నా డౌట్ ఏంటంటే వీళ్ళు దిర్హమ్స్ పే చేస్తారు, ఈ కరెస్పాండెంట్ బ్యాంక్ ఏంటంటే ఈ దిర్హమ్స్ ఇండియన్ రూపీలో కన్వర్ట్ చేసి వెళ్ళిస్తుంది.
అంతే అట్లా ఈ కరెస్పాండెంట్ బ్యాంక్లోకి వెళ్తుంది. అది ఇక్కడ స్పెషల్ అకౌంట్ ఉంటుంది, ఈ కరెస్పాండెంట్ బ్యాంక్లోకి వెళ్తుంది. ఈ రెండు ఏంటి, ఒకటే బ్రాంచ్ లాగా అనమాట. దే బిలాంగ్స్ టు సేమ్ బ్యాంక్ లాగా, అవునా? ఎస్ 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 అంతే కదా. ఎస్ మెమరాండమ్ ఆఫ్ అండర్స్టాండింగ్. ఇట్స్ అన్ అండర్స్టాండింగ్ అగ్రిమెంట్ లాగా. No, it's between two heads. Okay. It's an understanding. It's not actually an agreement. It's just an understanding. Agreement is different from understanding. అవును. See, అండర్స్టాండింగ్ అంటే ఏంటి అంటే 100% ఆబ్లిగేషన్ అని కాదు. ఇప్పుడు జనరల్గా మనం చాలా ఎంఓయూ సైన్ చేసుకుంటాం కదా, అది బిజినెస్ కోసం మనం సైన్ చేసుకునేది ఎంఓయూ. Yes. Presently this one. Okay. So is this one clear? Yes. So what we are doing here, we are developing the foreign exchange market between the, okay, dirham and the rupee. See, one thing we need to understand, this UAE is the 4th largest investor in India in terms of FDI. UAE is the 4th largest investor in India in terms of FDI. So now, okay, there is a dynamic foreign exchange market between the rupees. Cheptani points cheptanu. Now there is a dynamic foreign exchange market that is going to be established between Indian rupee and dirham. Therefore, the investments may get increased. Yes or no? Yes. So because of that point, what point? Okay, because of this one, okay, there is a foreign exchange market development between rupee and dirhams. So what is going to happen? Investments will increase. Investments will increase. Right. See, not only investments will increase. Now, I'm going to tell those points, but for the time being, just understand, there is 3.8 million diaspora living in the UAE. That is 3.8 million Indians living in the UAE doing different kinds of jobs. Most of them are semi-skilled workers. They are working in the construction industry. They will earn there and they will transfer the amount to their families located in the India. That amount which is transferred by them to the families located in the India are called remittances. What is that one? Remittances. Obviously, remittances will increase. Obviously, remittances will increase. So these are the advantages because of the development of the foreign exchange market between rupee and the dirhams. Now, now listen. So, if you see here, we have eliminated the transaction in the US dollars. So, what is going to happen? Okay. So, we have eliminated the risk of, or we can say we have eliminated the exchange rate risk with respect to US dollars. Okay. That means if the US dollar with respect to Indian rupee got appreciated, that means Indian rupee with respect to US dollar got depreciated. Okay. So, that is called exchange rate risk. So, we have eliminated this because we have eliminated the intermediacy of US dollars here. Is this point clear? Yes. So, these are some advantages. Please write down these 2 points as well. Also, can you tell some other points here? Can I say the transaction time got decreased? Because earlier rupee has to be converted into dollar and then dollar has to be converted into dirhams. Okay. So, transaction time can be decreased. As transaction time can be decreased, transaction cost. Transaction means what? Transaction between India and UAE. Transaction cost also decreased. Yes. So, try to understand this, okay, because this is actually a technical concept, okay, meeku newspapers lo antaga dorakapovachu concept anduke cheptunna. Now, can you tell me, we are doing this as a step towards, very good, internationalization of Indian rupee. Okay, internationalization of Indian rupee. I already told you 2 other points. What are those 2 points? We have done something, yes, we have done something for the internationalization of Indian rupee. Okay, the first one is establishing local currency settlement systems. The first system is established with UAE. Okay, next is capital account convertibility. We are slowly relaxing the restrictions. Okay, yes. The third point is masala bonds. Masala bonds released by the IFC is also towards the internationalization of Indian rupee. Already discussed chesam. Yes. So, not only this UAE, so countries like Russia, countries from Africa, okay, Sri Lanka and Bangladesh also, they are showing very interest, okay, for trade, for using the rupee, Is this point clear? Yes. So, these are some advantages. So, write down a point. Countries like Russia, African countries, countries from Gulf region, Sri Lanka and Bangladesh, are showing keen interest for trade in rupees, are showing keen interest for trade in rupees. Okay. So, what are the points here that we need to remember? Local currency settlement system. So, establishing a local currency settlement system, that is using the domestic currencies between the two countries for paying the imports and exports. Is this point clear? So prelims questions, what is a local currency settlement system? It is a system between two countries using the or promoting the local currencies, that is currencies of the two countries, for paying imports and exports. What is a correspondent bank? Correspondent bank acts as an agent of the foreign bank, because foreign bank do not want to establish their branches in the domestic country. అంటే ఫారెన్ అనే పదం వాడాను కాబట్టి డొమెస్టిక్ అన్నాను. ఇన్ కేస్ ఆఫ్ ఇండియా యూఏఈ తీసుకుంటే కరెస్పాండెంట్ బ్యాంక్ ప్రెజెంట్ ఇన్ ఇండియా యాక్ట్స్ యాజ్ అన్ ఏజెంట్ ఆఫ్ ది యూఏఈ బ్యాంక్స్, బికాస్ యూఏఈ బ్యాంక్స్ do not want to establish their branches in the India. Is this point clear? Yes. So that is a correspondent bank. Now, so right. So this is about, okay, this local currency settlement system. Let us see the relations between India and UAE. Other relations. Okay. Now, see, UAE is the third largest partner, trading partner of India. UAE is the third largest trading partner of India. Remember these points, these are very important for prelims as well. Trading partner of India. Trading partner of India. And the trade between these two countries, that is India and UAE, okay, amounts to $85 billion. So this is for the year 2022. Okay. Now, who are our first two largest trading partners? First one is USA, next one is China, and then it is UAE. Okay, and with UAE we have how much? $85 billion. Okay, $85 billion. Next. Next, UAE is the second largest export destination. Understand these points, okay? UAE is the second largest export destination. UAE is the second largest export destination. UAE is the fourth largest investor in India. UAE is the fourth largest investor in India. Fourth largest investor in India. Okay. India was the second largest trading partner of UAE. India was the second largest trading partner of UAE. India was the second largest trading partner of UAE. Trading partner of UAE. So the relation with UAE is this much important, as it is the third largest trading partner and the trade amounts to $85 billion. It is the second largest export destination, okay, fourth largest investor in India, okay, and of course India is the second largest trading partner of the UAE. So that's why, okay, the relations between India and UAE is that much important. Not only that, next point, there is 3.8 million diaspora. 3.8 million diaspora. 3.8 million diaspora. Indian diaspora living in UAE. So most of them are doing the blue collared jobs, that means semi-skilled workers. They are working in the construction industry, hospitality, like that. Okay, so they earn money and they send back their earned money to their families present in India, and that money is called remittances. In fact, the Gulf countries are actually very important for India. More than 50% of the remittances from the abroad coming to India, listen to the statement, more than 50% of the remittances from the abroad coming to the India are from the Gulf countries. And among that, the UAE has the majority shareholding. So UAE is that much important because our people are living there, our people are working there. Is this point clear? Yes. So that is one point. Next. Now see here. See, if you are observing the relations between Pakistan, UAE and Saudi Arabia, okay, from the past 1 decade, or at least if you see from the past 1 year, okay, there is so much of, okay, restriction towards the UAE and Saudi Arabia. Yes, they are cooperating, but there is so much of friction. Or I can say, see, this UAE and Saudi Arabia, they are actually Sunni powers, okay, Sunni Muslims, okay. So they are actually the allies of Pakistan. They support Pakistan. They support Pakistan in many international platforms. For example, United Nations. For example, Organization for Islamic Cooperation. They are supporting whom? Pakistan. But from the last 1 decade, okay, there has been a policy shift. Okay, now they are supporting India. So earlier, whenever Pakistan brought up the issue of Kashmir, okay, for example, human rights violation in the Kashmir, okay, so that is a decade before, okay, they are supporting the Pakistan. Nowadays, whenever Pakistan brought up the issue of Kashmir, okay, they are abstaining from the voting. They have taken a neutral stance. Who? UAE and Saudi Arabia. Is this point clear? Yes. So they have helped this Pakistan so much. They have given so much of financial assistance as well. Is this point clear? Nowadays also Pakistan has been in a very tough situation and it is borrowing money from its allies. One of them is Saudi Arabia and UAE as well. Okay, earlier they have given money, but they are seeing some resistance now, showing some resistance now, okay, in providing the money. Okay. So therefore, you can write this point, please write down, UAE and Saudi Arabia from the past 1 decade, have taken a policy shift, towards India, have taken a policy shift towards India. They have recognized the Pakistan-sponsored terrorism against India. As I told you, a decade before they are supporting whom? Pakistan. But now there is a policy shift. They now recognized the Pakistan-sponsored terrorism against India. Is this point clear, students? Yes. Particularly after 26/11 attacks, that is Mumbai terror attacks, when USA pressurized UAE and Saudi Arabia, to help India in countering terrorism. So please understand these points. To help India in countering terrorism. Okay. Not only that, UAE is supporting the India's strategic petroleum reserve project. UAE is supporting the India's strategic petroleum reserve project. What is the strategic petroleum reserve project? What is this one? See, under this strategic petroleum reserve project, we are going to create buffer stocks. we are going to create buffer stocks. Buffer stocks of what? Buffer stocks of, okay, crude oil. Buffer stocks of crude oil. That means we are going to store crude oil in the underground reserves. Crude oil in the underground reserves. In the underground reserves. Okay. So we are taking this project in two stages. The first stage is, okay, such that the crude oil, listen carefully, listen, such that the crude oil which we stored in the underground reserve will be sufficient to satisfy the needs of the country up to 10 days. Will be sufficient to satisfy the needs of the country up to 10 days without importing any oil from the abroad. Is this point clear? Yes. So this is first stage, and in the second stage we are escalating this to up to a month, that is 30 days. Okay. So this is phase 1, we can say, and this is phase 2. Is this point clear, students? You understanding this? Now tell me some locations where we have constructed the underground reserves. Yes, in Visakhapatnam we have constructed an underground reserve of this strategic petroleum reserve project. Okay. Similarly, in Mangalore we have constructed an underground reserve in one location in Karnataka as well, that is in Udupi. So we have constructed an underground reserve, etc. So in Orissa, in Gujarat also we have underground reserves. Is this point clear? So what we are doing here? We are storing the crude oil. That's it. So for how many days? It should satisfy the needs of the country up to 10 days, phase 1, up to 30 days, phase 2, without importing any oil from the abroad. Okay. So this is the, now UAE is helping India in this strategic petroleum reserve project. That means UAE is exporting crude oil to India for this project. Okay. So UAE is helping India for this project. UAE is helping India for this project. UAE is helping India for this project. Okay. Is helping India for this project. Now listen carefully. So we are obviously importing the crude oil, okay, from UAE. Just now I have told you. Okay. And 10% of our crude oil imports are coming from the UAE. Okay. So who are our major exporters of crude oil into India? The first one is Iraq, the second one is Saudi Arabia, the third one is UAE. Is this point clear? The first one is Iraq, Saudi Arabia and UAE. So this is before the Russia-Ukraine war. But now Russia-Ukraine war is taking place, has been taking place, and there are sanctions imposed by the West countries. So because of those sanctions, we are able to get, okay, we are able to purchase Russian oil at very low price. Is this point clear? Therefore, so the second largest import of crude oil is actually from the Russia. Is this point clear? The first being the Iraq. But this is for the short time. For this short time, the dynamics has been changed. But traditionally or before the Russia-Ukraine conflict, okay, what is the sequence? The first is Iraq, next is Saudi Arabia, and next is UAE. So almost 10% of the crude oil imports is actually coming from the UAE. So this much important UAE is. So this is the importance of UAE and India's relations. Completed? Okay. Right on. Almost 10% of crude oil imports is from UAE. The next point is almost 10% of the crude oil imports are from UAE. are from UAE. Are from UAE. So the first being Iraq, next is Saudi Arabia, and the next is UAE. Fine. Now, one important point here is, okay, see, in 2022, so we have signed an FTA, that is comprehensive economic partnership agreement. In 2022, a comprehensive economic partnership agreement called CEPA is signed between UAE and India. Is signed between UAE and India. So this is actually a FTA. What is FTA? This is actually a free trade agreement. Free trade agreement was signed between India and UAE. This is actually a very important agreement. Listen, you can write afterwards. So the last free trade agreement that we signed is in the year 2011. We have signed this last FTA with the Japan. So after 2011, we haven't signed any free trade agreement with any country. Is this point clear? Yes, because we had bitter experiences with the free trade agreement. Okay, in this free trade agreement game, India mostly loses. What is this free trade agreement? What is this comprehensive economic partnership agreement? See, as I told you, there are so many imports. Okay, we are importing from the UAE and we are also exporting to the UAE, and same is happening with the UAE with respect to India as well. So under this comprehensive economic partnership agreement, both countries promised that they are going to make the import duties to zero for many and many of the goods. For many and many of the goods, they are going to make the import duties to zero. What is the meaning of this? Suppose if we are importing something from the UAE, okay, listen carefully, we are importing something from the UAE. So therefore, the country India will put import duty on that particular good, yes or no? Yes. Okay, that means the cost of that particular good will be more, yes or no? Yes. Now India promised that import duty will be zero. Therefore, the cost of that particular good will be decreased, yes or no? So the demand for those goods, whose goods? Goods from the UAE. So the demand for those goods will be increased in the country. And the exporter of those goods from the UAE will get benefited because the demand has been increased here. Is this point clear? Yes. So this comprehensive economic partnership agreement is actually with respect to merchandise agreement. That means this is not for the services, this is only for the goods. Merchandise means goods. Is this point clear? Yes. So under this comprehensive economic partnership agreement, so both countries aimed to take the trade, okay, to $100 billion. To take the trade to $100 billion. Trade of what? Goods only, not services. So India and UAE going to make import duty to zero for many goods from both sides. Is this point clear, students? Yes, for many goods from both sides. So what are the industries which are going to benefit in India because of this free trade agreement? Listen. So the industries which are going to benefit in India because of this free trade agreement is jewelry industry, okay, textile industry, footwear industry, no need to write, just I want to tell you the one point here, footwear industry, leather industry, sports goods industry, okay, like this. So, all these industries are labor intensive industries, yes or no? Yes, they are labor intensive industries. So, because of this free trade agreement, we are anticipating increasing in the employment, okay, in these particular industries. Is this point clear? Yes. So, these industries going to be benefited because of this free trade agreement, right. So, SEPA 2002 is between, it is a bilateral free trade agreement, okay, that means it is between two countries, that is UAE and the India. So, almost after 11 years, a free trade agreement was signed by the India, and that is with the UAE. That is with the UAE. Now, IIT Delhi, okay, recently signed a MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, in order to establish its campus in Abu Dhabi. So, IIT Delhi is going to establish its campus in Abu Dhabi. So, this is under the IIT's IIT's Go Global campaign. This is under the IIT's Go Global campaign. I'll tell right on. Completed? Okay. Cheptana point cheptanu. Under the IIT's Go Global campaign, okay. So, first it is actual IIT Madras. IIT Madras is going to establish its campus in Zanzibar. In Zanzibar. Okay. It is going to establish a campus in Zanzibar. What is the specialty of this IIT Madras Zanzibar campus? The specialty of this is, okay, so this is actually, we will call it as IIT Madras Zanzibar campus, okay na, campus అని పిలుస్తాం అన్నమాట మనం దీన్ని. అయితే జాన్జిబార్ ఎక్కడుంది? జాన్జిబార్ ఈజ్ an archipelago. Archipelago means a group of small islands, okay. Zanzibar is an archipelago. It is located in Indian Ocean. It belongs to Tanzania. Is this point clear? Yes. So, this IIT Madras Zanzibar campus, this is going to be the first IIT, okay, to be headed by a woman. That means the director of the IIT Madras Zanzibar campus is going to be a woman, and this is the first IIT to be headed by an woman. And the director, headed by means director here, okay, director of that particular IIT. So, what is the name of that particular woman? It is Preeti Agalayam. Okay, she is going to be the director of this IIT Madras Zanzibar campus. Okay, now similarly IIT Delhi is going to establish its campus in IIT Delhi Abu Dhabi campus. IIT Delhi is going to establish its campus in Abu Dhabi. Abu Dhabi, the capital of United Arab Emirates. Okay, so and it is IIT Delhi Abu Dhabi campus. So this is about the India UAE relations, students. Okay. So this is under what? IIT's Go Global campaign. Okay, na? So ఒక్కసారి just a recap of all the important points under India UAE relations. Mainly the first one is what? See, I told you 2 memorandum of understanding. Okay, MOUs were signed between RBI and the Central Bank of Abu Dhabi, that is UAE. The first one is to establish a local currency settlement system, and the second MOU is for interlinking of the 2 payment systems, payment system in India and payment system in UAE. Right on. The second MOU between RBI and the Central Bank of UAE. The second MOU between RBI and the Central Bank of UAE is to interlink their payment systems. Okay, na? Is to interlink their payment systems. Okay, so ఒక్కసారి చెప్పండి నాన్న. Just a recap. So what we have done here, local currency settlement system is established between India and the UAE. So what is this local currency settlement system? Promoting the use of local currencies for the trade between the 2 countries, as simple as that. So that means we have eliminated the mediation or intermediacy of US dollars here. Yes, this is one point. And then I have told you what is a correspondent bank. There is a special account in the correspondent bank. Yes, yes. So after that, okay, we have went to other relations between the India and the UAE. So UAE being the 3rd largest trading partner of India, okay, 2nd largest export destination of India. All those points, okay, the first one I have given you 2022, $85 billion. Remaining all those points is for the financial year 2022 and 23. For the financial year 2022 and 23. So UAE being the 2nd largest export destination of India. And the 4th largest investor in India, 3.8 million Indians are living in the UAE, they are working there. Is that point clear? Yes. And then there is comprehensive economic partnership agreement is there, which was signed in 2022. It is a free trade agreement and it is between India and the UAE. And that is a very important agreement because after 11 years, India has signed a free trade agreement. Okay. And there is the military exercise between India and UAE, Desert Eagle. It is a bilateral military exercise between India and UAE, where the air forces are involved. There is also one more military exercise called Desert Flag. This Desert Flag, okay, it is a multilateral, okay, military exercise. So many countries' air forces are involved here. So India is there, UAE is there, France is there, okay, Australia is there, etc. Okay, and this one desert flag military exercise of 2023, okay, this one happened in the UAE. It is hosted by UAE. Is this point clear? So we will take up the next. Okay, this topic comes under the international relations and economy. Okay, next one is please, next one. What is our second topic, students? That Congress MP case, he was sentenced to a period of 2 years. Therefore, that particular MP is disqualified for being elected as a member of the parliament for how much period, students? For how much period? Okay, it is going to be jail term, that is 2 years plus 6 years, total 8 years. Because see here, greater than or equal to 2 years here. So he was exactly given a jail term of 2 years. Suppose if he was given a jail term of 1 year 11 months, say 1 year 11 months, say, now he is not disqualified, okay, and he will not come under this provision, yes or no, because this is only greater than or equal to 2 years. So exactly 2 years jail term was given. And remember one important point, okay, under criminal defamation also, okay, so the imprisonment can be up to 2 years. The maximum imprisonment is up to 2 years. That particular person, Congress MP, okay, has given the maximum imprisonment mentioned under section 500 of IPC, that is 2 years. Therefore, okay, then okay, his disqualification came into the picture. So this is the process here. Okay, so the thing here is, we have seen all the concepts here. The thing here is why we need defamation, criminal defamation in India. What is the need for that? So let us discuss the points here. This can be a very potential question for the mains examination as well. Okay. So why we need criminal defamation in India? Because to protect the dignity and reputation of an individual, we need criminal defamation in India, yes or no? Yes. That is one point. Okay. So next point, this criminal defamation acts as a deterrence to the persons who want to spread the false news, false information, who want to okay, damage the reputation of another person. So this criminal defamation acts as a deterrence to those kinds of persons. Yes or no? Obviously yes. Next. So we need criminal defamation, okay, in order to prevent the public disorder. In order to prevent the public disorder, as I have told you, if some person says something about okay, a religion, defames a religion, then it creates a public disorder. So in order to prevent that public disorder, we need criminal defamation. That is one point. So next point is fairness. So that means the person, okay, the person who has been defamed, okay, the person who has been defamed, okay, so upon which, okay, a statement, a false statement has been given. Now he can seek remedy in the courts because of this criminal defamation mentioned under the IPC section 499 and section 500. Yes. So, and also to promote the social cohesion, okay, to promote the cohesion in the society, to promote the cohesion, solidarity in the society, we need the criminal defamation. Now, what are the challenges in the criminal defamation, students? So obviously one thing is very important here, it will have a certain effect on the freedom of speech and expression, yes or no? Yes. Now the persons to freely express their views or to put a constructive criticism towards the government policies and programs, now they will get feared because criminal defamation case can be filed against them. Yes. So this will have an effect on the freedom of speech and expression. That is one important point. So another important point, okay, many a times this criminal defamation has been used by the ruling parties in order to silence their critics. Obviously, yes or no? Yes. So this has been misused, okay. So I can say misuse of criminal defamation by the ruling parties to silence their critics. That is one point here, students. So what is one more important point? These criminal defamation cases, okay, had been pending, many cases had been pending in the judiciary. Many cases are yet to be solved. Okay, suppose let us take, there is a person A and there is a person B, and A calls B is a thief. Suppose A calls B is a thief. Okay, and suppose this case is pending in the judiciary for years. B has to bear the burden of this statement, yes or no? Yes. So there is a delayed justice. Yes or no? There is a delayed justice with respect to these criminal defamation cases. So of all those years, the B, the person, the victim has to face the burden. Okay, right. And one more important point here is plaintiff's burden. Plaintiff's burden. What is this plaintiff's burden, students? So what is this plaintiff's burden? Suppose let us take this case. A said B is a thief. Therefore, B, okay, put a criminal defamation case. Criminal defamation case against A. So in this situation, so this B is the plaintiff. Okay. Now, in this criminal defamation case, so there is a burden. This B is called plaintiff, and there is a burden on B, because the B has to prove that he is not a thief, and A made those comments, and those comments, okay, destroyed the reputation of B, damaged the reputation of B. There is a burden on B to provide the evidence, okay, to prove his innocence or to prove that he is not a thief. So this is plaintiff's burden. That is also one challenge with respect to this criminal defamation case. So these are the challenges associated with the criminal defamation, students. Okay. So so this is about this. Suppose if you are writing a mains answer, what are the conclusions you can write? You can write, okay, so we need to amend or repeal the criminal defamation law. Okay. So, or we can decrease the imprisonment, because the maximum imprisonment is prescribed under section 500 of IPC is for 2 years, and the minimum imprisonment where a person can be disqualified to be elected as a member of parliament is 2 years. Exactly, these two are matching. We can decrease, we can relax the jail term here. Okay, or we can go for settling the defamation cases, okay, through the process of alternative dispute resolution mechanism, ADR mechanism. Okay, alternative dispute resolution mechanism, alternative dispute resolution mechanism, ADR mechanism. For example, arbitration. So we can solve criminal defamation cases through this ADR mechanism. For example, mediation, for example, arbitration. These are alternative dispute resolution mechanisms, right? Okay. So these are the things that we can write in the conclusion, students. Okay. So this is about this. In fact, this alternative dispute resolution mechanism can also decrease the burden on the judiciary, because as I told you, there are so many cases with respect to criminal defamation pending in the courts. Right. So these are the points that we can write. One important point here is defamation in India is both a criminal offence and civil offence as well. Criminal offence we have discussed, okay, so far. So civil defamation means the person, suppose in this example, let us take B, he will seek compensation from A. This B will seek compensation from A, that is civil defamation. Okay. So this is about the defamation, students. Okay. Okay, students, the third topic for this current affairs class is, okay, multi-dimensional poverty index. So multi-dimensional poverty index, right, MPI. So what is the news here? Okay, so 415 million Indians, 415 million Indians came out of multi-dimensional poverty. says the UNDP report. So 415 million Indians came out of multi-dimensional poverty. So multi-dimensional poverty. Says UNDP report. Okay, says UNDP report. Okay. So what is UNDP? United Nations Development Program. Okay, fine. See here, we will discuss what is a multi-dimensional poverty index. So, but before that, let us see the story behind this. Okay, so this United Nations Development Program, UNDP, so it publishes Human Development Report. It publishes Human Development Report, HDR. So under this Human Development Report, students, it publishes 5 indices. Okay, it publishes 5 indices. So what are those 5 indices? One is Human Development Index. So that is HDI. So Human Development Index. So another one is, okay, Inequality Adjusted. Inequality Adjusted Human Development Index. So this is IHDI, Inequality Adjusted Human Development Index. So another one is Gender Development Index. Gender Development Index. Okay, so GDI. So another index it will publish under this Human Development Report is Gender Inequality Index. Gender Inequality Index. Okay, so another one is this Multi-Dimensional Poverty Index. So these are the 5 indices this UNDP publishes in the Human Development Report. Very, very important for exam. Okay, so we will discuss this Multi-Dimensional Poverty Index. Okay. So this Multi-Dimensional Poverty Index, students, listen carefully, very important for the exam. Okay. So it is developed by United Nations Development Program, okay, and also by the Oxford Poverty and Human Development Initiative. Oxford Poverty and Human Development Initiative. So Oxford Poverty and Human Development Initiative. So these two entities developed this Multi-Dimensional Poverty Index. So this Multi-Dimensional Poverty Index, students, it replaced Human Poverty Index. It replaced Human Poverty Index. Human Poverty Index. Now, what this Multi-Dimensional Poverty Index measures is the acute poverty. It measures the acute poverty. It measures the acute poverty. Okay, so this is multi-dimensional poverty it is measuring, and that is the acute poverty, students. Okay, so just take a small deviation here. Okay, I'll explain here. See, World Bank also measures poverty. it fixes a number that is $1.90, and this is the international poverty line. So, World Bank fixes $1.90 as the international poverty line, poverty line, fine. Okay. So, that means any person whose per capita consumption expenditure per day, any person who is spending less than $1.90 per day can be considered as poor according to the World Bank. Okay. So, that is per capita consumption expenditure expenditure per day. Okay. If any person per capita consumption expenditure per day less than $1.90, he is considered as poor. And what World Bank measures here is extreme poverty. What here it is measuring is extreme poverty. Extreme poverty. Remember, World Bank measures the extreme poverty, and United Nations Development Program, okay, that is multi-dimensional poverty index, it measures the acute poverty, students. Okay, this is the difference here. I hope you understand this concept here. Fine. So, in this World Bank international poverty line, so here poverty is measured in terms of spending. If a person spends $1.90 less than that, okay, he is considered to be poor. So, here only one dimension has taken, and that dimension is spending. Similarly, we can also take one more dimension. Suppose let us take a person earning less than 10,000 rupees per month can be considered as a poor. Here also I am taking only one dimension, and that dimension is income dimension, here spending dimension. But here under multi-dimensional poverty index, there are many dimensions that will be considered before deciding a person whether poor or not. I hope you understand the concept. Okay. Now, let us continue the multi-dimensional poverty index here. So, this multi-dimensional poverty index, so there are three dimensions. There are three dimensions and a total of 10 indicators. Okay. So, I will write like this. Okay. There are three dimensions and a total of 10 indicators. Okay, and a total of 10 indicators. So, what are those three dimensions? The first one is education. Okay. So, under this is one dimension, there are two indicators. Then one is number of years of schooling. So, another one is school attendance. Okay. So, dimension, there are two indicators. So, the next dimension here is health. So, under this health, so again, okay, there are two indicators. One is child mortality. Another one is nutrition. So, similarly, next dimension is standard of living, living standard. So, under this there are remaining 6 indicators are there. So, what are those? For example, there is sanitation, there is drinking water, so there is housing, okay, there is cooking fuel, there is assets and there is electricity. There is electricity, sanitation, drinking water, housing, cooking fuel, assets and electricity. So 3 dimensions, 10 indicators are there. Is this point clear? Yes. So multi-dimensional poverty index, it is going to see different dimensions before concluding whether the person is poor or not. World Bank, only one dimension, that is spending, that's it. Okay. Now there are certain weights. There are certain weights associated with these indicators. Okay. So the weight for this indicator is 1/6. The weight for this indicator is 1/6. Therefore, the total weight for this dimension is 1/3. Fine. The weight for this indicator child mortality is 1/6 and the weight for this indicator nutrition is 1/6. Therefore, the total weight for the dimension health is 1/3. So similarly, here it is 1/18. So here it is 1/18. So here it is 1/18. So here it is 1/18 and the weight for assets is also 1/18 and here it is 1/18. So the total weight for this dimension is 1/3. Okay. So these are the weights. Now, so how we will calculate the multi-dimensional poverty index here? See students, see as I told you, we are seeing the many dimensions here and many indicators here before concluding a person is poor or not. Okay. So how we will calculate the multi-dimensional poverty index? So how we will know whether a person is multi-dimensional poor or not? Okay, let us see. See here. See, under suppose, let us take an example here. A person is said to be deprived. Okay, suppose let us take this one, child mortality. Okay, na? A person is said to be deprived under this indicator. Under this indicator, for example, if a child, okay, in that particular family, a child in that family dies in the past 5 years, okay. Similarly, under nutrition, suppose if an adult, okay, or that is if an adult, that means less than 70 years of age, and if a child is stunted, then that particular person is deprived under this indicator nutrition. Suppose if there is no electricity to that particular home, then they are deprived under this indicator. Is this point clear, students? Yes. So let us take an example here. Similarly, there are many like this, there are statements, okay, but for this under this topic multi-dimensional poverty index, so the dimensions and indicators are important for us. That is enough for the exam. I am just telling, so how we will calculate the multi-dimensional poverty index. Okay, now let us take an example. Suppose let us take a country X. Let us take a country X. In that country X, there are only 3 persons. Let us take A, B and C. Okay. Suppose if A is deprived under number of years of schooling and also deprived under school attendance. So for example, let us take, okay, under number of years of schooling, okay, if any person in that particular family do not completed at least 6 years of schooling, then they will be deprived under this indicator. Okay. See, suppose if person A is deprived under the first indicator, that means so he scored 1/6, and second indicator also he is deprived means he scored again 1/6. Suppose let us take person B is deprived under first indicator, second indicator and third indicator as well. Third indicator means, so here also 1/6. Is this point clear? Yes. Similarly, suppose let us take C here, and he is deprived under first indicator as well. Suppose if A is deprived under this housing, So housing means, so if that particular house, okay, that housing material is insufficient or that housing material is made up of natural materials, then we will put 1 by 18. Then that particular family is deprived under this housing indicator. Okay. So similarly, if A is deprived under this housing means he scored plus 1 by 18. He scored 1 by 18. Okay. Fine. So like this I am taking here. So what is the total score of A? 1 by 6 plus 1 by 6, 1 by 3. B, it is 1 by 2, and C, it is 1 by 6 only. That means C scored 0 in the remaining indicators. Okay. So to consider a person is multidimensionally poor, to consider a person multidimensionally poor, okay, he should score 1 by 3 at least or 33.3%. So he should score 1 by 3 or 33.3% at least I am talking about. Therefore, now tell me, so who are multidimensional poor here? So obviously this person, that is A, is multidimensionally poor and B is also multidimensionally poor. 33.3%, 50%, and this is less than that. Yes or no? Yes. So these two persons are multidimensionally poor. So like that we will define okay, who are multidimensionally poor or not. Now what is incidence ratio? What is incidence ratio? So this is also called as head count ratio. Remember, all these definitions are very important for exam. So head count ratio, it is equal to number of people who are multidimensionally poor, number of people who are, okay, multidimensionally poor, so divided by the total population of the country, in this case total population of the India we can take, okay, into 100. If we take into 100 we will get percentage. So if we want ratio we need to take these two only, okay. So into 100 if I put, we will get percentage. Fine. So this is about the incidence ratio. Okay. So incidence ratio just tells that how much percentage of population are multidimensionally poor, that's it. How much percentage of population in that country are multidimensionally poor, that's it. So that is about the incidence ratio or head count ratio. But how to calculate the multidimensional poverty index? Index is a number, na? Right. So how to calculate this multidimensional poverty index? So this is equal to incidence ratio into average intensity of multidimensional poverty. So multidimensional poverty. So average intensity of the multidimensional poverty. So how to calculate this one, students? Suppose we will go to this country and we will calculate the multidimensional poverty index here. So multidimensional poverty index for this country X is equal to incidence ratio. What is incidence ratio? Number of people who are multidimensionally poor. So number of people who are multidimensionally poor, only 2, divided by the total population of that country, that is there are 3 people are there, into intensity, average intensity of the multidimensional poverty. So we can say like this, MPI is equal to incidence ratio into intensity ratio. How to do this? Let us come to this example here. Okay. So here who are poor? A and B are poor, but if you see here, A's score is 1 by 3 and B's score is 1 by 2. 33.3%, 50%. That means this B is more poorer when compared to A in terms of multidimensional poverty, yes or no? Yes. So this B is more poorer because he scored something extra. He is deprived in one more indicator. Yes. He is deprived in one more indicator when compared to A. So B is more poorer when compared to A. So that difference in poverty also we are going to consider for calculating the multidimensional poverty index. But for incidence ratio or head count ratio, we just want to know how many people are multidimensionally poor divided by the population into 100. But for calculating the index, we will see that difference as well. Okay. So how to calculate this one, students, here? So this is equal to, okay, 1 by 3 plus 1 by 2. So divided by how many are there? We are taking the average here, that is 2. Suppose if you calculate here, so this is equal to 2 by 3 into, so this is going to be 5 by 6 and this is going to be 5 by 12. So this is going to be 5 by 18. So this 5 by 18 is equal to, I think we will get, so 0.278. So 0.278. So therefore, for this country X, what is the multidimensional poverty index? Index is a number which is equal to 0.278. That's it. So that's how we will calculate the multidimensional poverty index. Okay. So students, what are the things here? So in multidimensional poverty index, two things are there. One is incidence ratio, another one is intensity ratio. Incidence ratio is very simple. So it will tell the percentage of population in that country who are multidimensionally poor. That's it. But intensity ratio, so we'll also take the difference, okay, in the poverty among the poor. It also takes the difference in the poverty, okay, among the poor. So like that we will calculate the MPI. So remember, students, so these questions are actually very important. Okay, who releases this MPI? United Nations Development Program. Who developed this MPI? UNDP and Oxford, okay, Poverty and Human Development Initiative. So this MPI is a part of Human Development Report released by the UNDP. Okay, and this MPI, which is very important, it measures the acute poverty, and World Bank poverty measures the extreme poverty. So these are the concepts. So the Union Cabinet has approved this bill, and the Union Cabinet is going to place this bill in the Parliament in this monsoon session. Okay, this bill is going to coming into the discussion. So throughout this month, okay, for the next 10 or 30 days, or for the next 30 days, you are going to read about this bill in the newspapers. Okay, so try to understand what are the terms present under this bill. Okay, now see, first of all, we don't have a comprehensive law. Listen to the story here. We don't have any comprehensive law with respect to data protection in India. That means there is no single law dedicated to do data protection in India. Now, and this data protection is dealt under the Information Technology Act 2000. Fine. And the provisions present in that Information Technology Act are inadequate, okay, towards this data protection. Fine. So government recognized this fact. So in 2017, government appointed, okay, Justice B.N. Sri Krishna Committee under the chairmanship of Justice B.N. Sri Krishna. So government appointed Sri Krishna Committee in 2017 about what? Data protection. And in 2018, this committee submitted its report. Based on the findings or based on the recommendations of that report, government has made a law. That law is actually called Personal Data Protection Law. There is no digital here. That bill or that act is called Personal Data Protection Bill. Actually, it is a bill, Personal Data Protection Bill, okay, 2019. What I told you, 2018, Justice B.N. Sri Krishna Committee gave its report. Based on the recommendations of the report, government has drafted a Personal Data Protection Bill, 2019. But as the government circulated this bill, okay, in order to take the opinion of the public, there is so much of criticism from the technological companies, from the privacy activists, and the privacy activists. Okay, therefore, in 2022, government withdraw that Personal Data Protection Bill. that personal data protection bill. Is this point clear? Yes. After that, Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology drafted this digital personal data protection bill, okay, 2023. Okay, so this bill, now this bill, Union Cabinet approved this bill. They are going to place this in the Parliament in this monsoon session. There will be so much of discussion about this bill. Is this point clear? Yes. Now tell me, government drafted this bill based on the recommendations of B.N. Sri Krishna committee. So that is a committee on what?
Personal
Data protection. Okay, because till now we don't have any law exclusively dedicated for data protection. Okay, fine. So what are the provisions under this? Okay, what are the provisions under this bill? What are the provisions under this bill? So first of all, what is personal data? Listen students, okay? మీరు మళ్ళీ వీడియో చూసి కావాల్సింటే రాసుకుందరు కానీ what is a personal data? A personal data is a data of individual, okay, by which he is identifiable. Listen, a personal data is the data of the individual by which he is identifiable. What are the examples of personal data? His address, his phone number, his email ID, his biometric data. All these are examples of personal data. Fine. Second thing, what is, see, I'll write personal data as PD from now onwards. What is processing of personal data? What is processing of personal data? Processing of, see, these are the terms which we are going to encounter in the coming, okay, in the newspapers in the next 30 days. What is processing of personal data? Processing of personal data means collection of personal data, storage of personal data, using that personal data, transfer of or sharing of personal data. Is this point clear? Yes. Collection, storage, using. So you are taking personal data means you will use it for some purpose now. Using and sharing of that personal data is called processing of personal data. Is this point clear? Yes. Next one. Okay, consent. Consent. See, suppose an entity is collecting personal data from a person, it requires the consent of the person. It requires the consent of the person. That is one point. Next. And that particular personal data should be used only for lawful purposes only. Should be used only for lawful purposes only. Now, there is one important point here, that is deemed content. That is deemed content. Okay. So what is this deemed content? Consent. I'm sorry. So what is this deemed consent? So that means in certain cases the consent is automatically taken. That means the consent of the person is not required. He need to give the data, and that particular organization has to use the data without the consent of the person. What are those certain cases? For example, when the government is giving some benefits, it has to collect the data from the public, yes or no? So when government is giving benefits. Next one, when for employment purposes, they will collect some data of you, yes or no? Your phone number, your address, your biometric data, your so on and so forth. For medical emergency purposes, the consent is deemed. Now for public interest purposes, okay, this is actually some, okay, points, okay, which are under limelight, which are going to be under discussion. For public interest purposes, what are these public interest purposes? For the purpose of national security, for the purpose of national security, for the purpose of fraud prevention, for the purpose of information security. So under these, the consent is deemed. Okay, so the consent is deemed to be taken. So this is about the deemed consent. Next, data principle. హూ ఈజ్ అ డేటా ప్రిన్సిపల్? సి ఈ పదాలు మీకు కనపడతాయి నాన్న, మీకు రేపు న్యూస్ పేపర్లో ఇవి కనపడతాయి, ఎగ్జామ్లో అడిగినా కూడా మనం ఆశ్చర్యపోవాల్సిన అవసరం లేదు. డేటా ప్రిన్సిపల్ అంటే ఎవరంటే ఎవరి నుంచి అయితే డేటా కలెక్ట్ చేసుకున్నామో, ఫ్రమ్ హూమ్ వీ హ్యావ్ కలెక్టెడ్ ద డేటా, దట్ పర్సన్ ఈస్ కాల్డ్ డేటా ప్రిన్సిపల్. Is this point clear? Yes. So there are certain rights for the data principal and there are certain duties for the data principal under this bill. What are the rights for the data principal? He had a right, okay, he had a right to know the information about data processing, why you are collecting data, where you are going to use this data, to whom with you are sharing the data. He has the right to get the information about data processing. He has the right for grievance redressal, that means he has the right to complaint, okay. He has the right for grievance redressal. He has the right to seek correction in the data which he has given. He has the right to seek correction and erasure, okay, with respect to the data he has given. Is this point clear? These are the normal rights. And there are certain duties here. What are those duties? He should not give the false information, and he should give the complete information. Is this point clear? He should give the complete information. He should not provide the false information. If these duties of that particular data principal, if these duties of those of the data principal are breached, okay, there will be a fine up to 10,000 rupees. There will be a fine up to 10,000 rupees. Is this point clear? Yes. So this data principal has some rights and has some duties. Now the next point is data fiduciary. So data fiduciary. What is data fiduciary? The entity which is collecting data. So the entity which is collecting data is called data fiduciary. Okay na? And there are certain obligations for the data fiduciary. What are the obligations for the data fiduciary? Listen. మీకు PRS వెబ్సైట్లోకి వెళ్తే నీట్గా ఈ బిల్ అంతా ఉంటుంది. జస్ట్ నేను మీకు టర్మ్స్ ఎక్స్ప్లెయిన్ చేయాలనుకుంటున్నాను. దట్ ఈస్ ద మోటివ్ ఆఫ్ దిస్ టాపిక్. ఓకేనా? డేటా ఫిడ్యూషియరీకి కొన్ని అబ్లిగేషన్స్ ఉంటాయన్న. ఏంటది? వాట్ ఎవర్ ద డేటా ఇట్ హ్యాస్ కలెక్టెడ్, ఇట్ హ్యాస్ టు మేక్ షూర్ దట్ okay there is a completeness of data, make sure that there is a secrecy of data, okay, completeness of data, secrecy of the data, and data has to be deleted once the purpose has been met. The data fiduciary obligations to ensure secrecy of the data, completeness of the data or accuracy of the data, and the data has to be deleted once the purpose has been met. అంటే తనతో డేటాను ఉంచుకోకూడదు, డిలీట్ చేసేయాలి. దట్ ఈస్ ఇట్స్ ఆబ్లిగేషన్. ఇస్ దిస్ పాయింట్ క్లియర్? అండ్ వన్ మోర్ ఆబ్లిగేషన్ హియర్ ఈస్ వెన్ ఎవర్ ద డేటా హ్యాస్ బీన్ బ్రీచ్డ్, అంటే వెన్ దెర్ ఇస్ అ డేటా థెఫ్ట్, ఓకే, వెన్ దెర్ ఇస్ అ డేటా లీకేజ్ లైక్ దట్, వెన్ ఎవర్ ద డేటా హ్యాస్ బీన్ బ్రీచ్డ్, ఇట్ నీడ్ టు ఇన్ఫార్మ్ టు ది Data Protection Board. This is the 8th point. It need to inform to the Data Protection Board of India. Data Protection Board of India. Is this point clear? Yes. So that means under this bill, the government is going to establish the Data Protection Board of India. So whenever the data has been breached, there is an obligation on the data fiduciary that it need to inform the Data Protection Board. Is this point clear? Yes. So these are some important points, and actually the problem here is there are some exemptions. This is the problem. I will tell one more problem as well. So what are the exemptions here? See, I told you this data principal has some rights and duties. Data fiduciary has some obligations. What is one obligation? It needs to erase the data after the purpose has been met. But the data principal rights and data fiduciary obligations are compromised in certain cases, can be exempted in certain cases. What are those certain cases? For example, so what are those certain cases? For example, investigating an offense, preventing an offense. Okay, in those cases, enforcing the legal rights, in those cases, okay, the rights of the data principal and obligations of the data fiduciary are compromised. That is one point. You understand this point? That means, see, a data fiduciary can be a government agency, and now if the government agency obligation is compromised, that means now the government agency will collect the data and will keep itself, it will not delete it, because there is an exemption provided under this law. With that data, if it is collected, the data of all the people, it can do the surveillance. Yes or no? That is one problem. So here right to privacy is a part, is a right under which article? Supreme Court mentioned this, right to privacy is a right under Article 21. Now that is going to be compromised, yes or no? Yes. Now one more important point here is, so the first point, those rights and obligations are compromised. Second point is, the government will give a notification, and in that notification it will exempt certain activities from the compliance of the provisions of the bill. For example, the government agencies can collect the data and need not to agree with the provisions of the bill, need not to follow the provisions of the bill. Is this point clear? For purposes like national security, that is security of the state and public order, like this, it can collect the data and need not to follow the provisions under this bill. Is this point clear? Similarly, it can store the data and that particular government agency can use that data in whatever way it wants. That is, right to privacy is compromised here. Is this point clear? Yes. Not only right to privacy is compromised here, as I told you, the government, the central government, okay, will give a notification. In that notification, it will, okay, exempt government agency, okay, from following the provisions of the bill. It is actually creating an inequality between a government agency and private agency. Suppose if the government agency and private agency are doing the same business activity, providing telecom services, providing banking services, now definitely there is an inequality, na? Yes or no? Yes. So like this, there are these exemptions are, okay, they are going to be in discussion in the newspapers in the coming days. Okay, this is about the data protection, digital personal data protection bill. Is this